When most people hear the term personal branding, the thing that they oftentimes immediately picture is influencers oversharing their lives or people turning every coffee run into content. And honestly, that was my fear too. I remember scrolling through Instagram on my phone and thinking to myself, if I build a personal brand, does that mean that now I have to share my entire life? Which, for the record, I am 1000% opposed to. And then I started wondering, does this also mean that I have to be the loudest person in the room just to get noticed? And these thoughts and this idea of building a personal brand online felt really, really exhausting to me. I don't want my business to turn into a reality TV show. And most importantly, I didn't want to show up feeling like someone I wasn't. Now, over time, after working with numerous brands and creeping on even more of them, promise not in a weird way, I began to realize successful personal branding is not about showing more of your life, but it's about showing the right parts of your life that can connect you with your audience. And these right parts are what will build trust. Now, you might already know this, but people who grow in 2025 aren't necessarily the loudest on the internet. They are the ones who are clear about who they are, what they stand for, and how they want to be showing up. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how personal branding actually works today, as well as give you some simple practical ways that you can start weaving it into your business, all without oversharing, burning out, or losing who you are. By the end of this video, you'll not just understand what personal branding looks like in 2025, but you'll have a step-by-step way to blend it into your business so it feels natural, strategic, and completely yours. But before we dive in, if you're new here, my name is Hunter Myers, the face and mind behind Verdure Design Co. Through strategy-led design, I help bold founders build magnetic brands that sell with confidence and clarity. And around here, we treat branding a little bit like dating because both require chemistry, commitment, and knowing who you are. And here's what I've learned after working with founders from all different industries. You can have the best offer, the sharpest visuals, even the slickest funnel. But if people feel like they don't know you, all of that is going to fall flat. That's why personal branding isn't just some trend anymore. It's the thing that can completely shift how people see your business and connect with it. So let's get into it. Why personal branding is so much more than day in the life reels, and how to build one that feels real instead of performative. Now let's start with the option that feels the safest for small business owners, and that is staying behind your everyday client work. When all you do is deliver, produce, and execute, you don't risk the same kind of judgment as showing up with your face to the camera. You don't have to compete on personality, it feels less vulnerable, and it feels safer, which I get because I used to be there. Back when I started my business in 2020, I would tell myself, if my work is strong, it'll speak for itself. I don't have to put myself out there. I don't want to, I don't need to, the work is strong enough. But here's what I didn't realize at that time and what a lot of business owners don't realize. When you hide behind your work, it makes you invisible. I'd send proposals, I'd get some leads, but people didn't really know the me behind the designs. And I was finding that I was making more sales and gathering more clients when I would show up to in-person networking events where people could get to know who I was, as opposed to online where I wasn't showing any of my personality but was hiding behind the work that I was producing. And that's when it really hit me. Doing great work isn't enough. In today's market, you have to let people know who you are so they can connect with the human behind the brand. And this isn't just my story. As I began looking around, I started to see a pattern. The businesses that grew the fastest weren't always the most talented or the most affordable options. Instead, they were the ones who were showing their face online, showing their personality, and showing up in the brand. So let's make this real for you. I want you to imagine two brands side by side. Brand A, it's super polished. They've got a clean logo, maybe a nice website, but that's where it ends. No story, no personality, no human connection. And the reality is, it feels kind of flat. Now I want you to picture brand B. Same level of talent, same kind of offer, but with a face and a voice. You've heard their perspective, you've seen their story, you know what they stand for. Even if you've never bought from them, you feel like you already know them. Now I want you to pause and ask yourself, who would you trust more? The brand whose work was all you saw, or the brand that had a human behind it guiding you along the way? Most people are going to say brand B, and it's not because of pricing or the design. It is because personal branding creates memorability, connection, and again, builds trust. And here's the sad reality. If you stay hidden forever, your business is going to become replaceable. People are craving that connection. We are seeing it all over this marketing space. And so stepping into that personal branding will give you the one up that you need and build that connection with your audience that they need to experience in order to feel comfortable buying from you. So let's pause for a second and answer the big question here. What actually is personal branding? And here's how I define it. Personal branding is when you, the founder, become part of your business identity. It's not just your logo or your services or your Instagram grid, but is the way that people connect with you as a human behind the business. Now, here's why this matters now more than ever for small business owners. It is no longer enough to deliver really good work. I wish it was. We all wish it was. But the reality is people want to buy from people. There are so many options out on the market, and the way that you stand out is to make yourself memorable and relatable as the founder of the business. And when you can step into this personal branding, you wind up unlocking 3 really powerful things. First is visibility. People actually see you, remember you, and recognize your name. The second, which is one I've brought up a lot, is trust. Showing up consistently helps people feel like they know you before they ever hire you, which makes someone a lot more comfortable to purchase from you in the long run. And third, the one that is very important for all of our businesses to be successful, is sales. Because when people know and trust you, the buying process gets so much easier for them. You remove friction, you remove some of the anxiety, and it's like purchasing from a friend. Now, this is not about shouting and being the loudest on the internet, okay? Again, that was a misconception that I had in the beginning. That is not what personal branding has to be. The most important thing is it is about being human. Now let's tackle some of those myths that a lot of us might have about personal branding. And they're ones that I know that I had when I started to develop my own personal brand. Number 1, personal branding means sharing your entire life online. When I first got into personal branding and figuring out how to develop my own personal brand, a lot of my fears were that I was going to have to start documenting every part of my life. And if you know anything about me, I loathe that process. I don't want people to constantly looking over my shoulder, seeing what I'm doing all the time. I don't want to have to separate myself from my own experiences so I can make sure that I'm gathering content, which is one of the main reasons I got off of Instagram and started building my brand on YouTube. And so this is what I want you to know about personal branding. You get to decide what feels safe and strategic for your own personal brand. And you also get to decide and figure out what helps your audience connect with you. For me, I don't share every detail with the internet because love you guys, but you don't need to know. But I do share stories that tell you a little bit more about who I am, what I care about, the things that I enjoy, and some things that I feel like can help us connect on a different level. Outside of just the business, but not so deep that I feel like you're a part of my family and I need to tell you every little thing about me. For example, something that I really love to share with people is my bearded dragon. I've shared about my French bulldog before she passed away. Like, my pets are really important to me and they're kind of a part of this team here. And so I incorporate that into some of my stories online. And what that does is allowed people to connect with some other parts of me that aren't just business. It's fun, which is one of my businesses and my own core values. There's that community aspect. I've had people even ask how my pets are doing. And it's something that's memorable for my audience and a special little connection for anyone else who really loves their pet or happens to have a reptile, because not everyone does. And so these are the ways that I incorporate these parts of my life that aren't quite business, but also aren't diving into every little crevice and corner of my personal life. And here's what I want you to take away from it. Sharing those small glimpses is more than enough. You don't have to live stream your entire life to have a personal brand. You just have to be really intentional with the things that you share and make sure that they align with you and they represent you. Myth number 2, personal branding is just about posting selfies and lifestyle content. Now, as a designer, I really struggled with this one because I thought I had to be showing up so perfectly. I was like, everyone is going to be judging me for how I look, for the things that I create, for what my feed looks like. And I'm gonna have to be, quote, professional, right? Buttoned up and everything anytime that I show up. And the problem with this is it created a lot of conflict for me in the content creation process. But here's the deal. As I said, people wanna be connecting with a human. And personal branding is not about perfection. It is about building connection. And humans aren't perfect. And we're entering an era now where perfection actually sometimes reduces trust than builds it. Your personal brand is all about positioning yourself as someone that they can relate to and your audience wants to work with. It's all about showing your perspective and your knowledge, not necessarily about curating the perfect life or the perfect feed. Share a quick behind the scenes glimpse of what you're doing and what your process is. Let clients see what it is that it looks like to work with you. Share a thought-provoking post. Is there a way that you think about something that's a little bit different in your industry? Share that, or even reflections about a recent client project that you did. All of this can be considered personal branding without you having to get all your cameras perfectly set up, to get your outfit right, to make sure that your angles are perfect. Just show up and be yourself. And then there's myth number 3, which is I have to wait until I'm ready or have it all figured out before I start. And this is one that stops so many founders and stopped me for a really long time. Like, I didn't start this YouTube channel until 5.5 years into running my business because I thought I had to have everything figured out before I started. And the reality is people want to see your growth process. People will feel so much more connected to you if they can see where you started and how you got to where you are. I want you to think of a time that you've looked at someone that you really admire and you've seen how great they're doing, but don't get to see what got them there. It is so much harder to relate to that person and a lot easier to be like, well, I could never get there because they're so different from me. You see, personal branding is meant to grow with you because, again, people connect with humans and humans grow over time. I imagine you are not the same person that you were 10 years ago, and your personal brand doesn't have to be all figured out either and stay the same as you grow over the next 10 years. You just have to be yourself. It is not about perfection. It is about being human. Myth number 4, personal branding is just for influencers. This is not true. You do not have to be an influencer to develop a personal brand. And just because you are developing a personal brand doesn't mean that you are going to have to become an influencer. You see, a lot of what I have seen in this space of marketing and content creation winds up pushing this influencer feel and vibe, and like that is how you get success. But if that doesn't align with you, it is a really quick way to burn yourself out on your content creation. It's a great way to feel misaligned in your business, oftentimes leaving you disliking the business in general. You wind up start tracing trends and things like that instead of being yourself and truly focusing on connecting with your audience. When you are thinking that personal branding means Instagram famous, you stop thinking about what personal branding really is, which is building a connection with your audience so that they can like and trust you more. You don't need millions of followers to build that connection. You just need the right people in the right room and the right message that you are sharing. So let me ask you, aside from these 4 myths, is there anything else that is holding you back from building a personal brand? If so, let me know in the comments. I would love to address them in another video, but we'll keep moving as we're going through this. Now, I know earlier on, I talked about how personal branding is so much more than just the in the life or like life of vlogs. But when you're first starting out and you're needing to gather some content, this can be a really great way to get a lot of like B-roll and clips without having to think too much about it. So when you think about it, capture some of those small moments. For me, it's taking pictures of my bearded dragon sometimes when we're working together in the living room, or sharing about how I'm sitting outside and taking a break there for a bit. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or super elaborate. You don't have to move your camera around to a million different angles. Don't worry about that. Just capture some real raw moments of you doing your work, your process, whatever it is that feels like you. As I said, an example of me doing this is sharing my bearded dragon. The other day, I shared that she was sick and shared a little picture of her hiding in her cage. And so many people commented on that and were reaching out and being like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with her? Is she gonna be okay? Sending good vibes so that she heals. Like, that is a connection that I wouldn't have built with my audience if I wasn't developing this personal brand. And so if you wanna see my bearded dragon, follow me on Instagram. I share about her there. I'll share about her, I'm sure, in some of my videos at some point here too. But we can connect over there. If you also have a bearded dragon, let me know. We'll keep moving. I get a little obsessed. But let's keep going through this video. I want to share with you some other small ways that I've leaned into my personal brand that hopefully you can start incorporating into yours too. Number one, first and foremost, I started showing up more consistently on camera. Now for me, YouTube was so much easier than other social media platforms. I can talk for longer, I can have things a little more planned out, and I'm not as stressed about the trends of keeping up with Reels, or if you're on TikTok, using TikTok. Now on these channels, I share different things about my life and the things that I care about in my business. So I talk about having ADHD as a business owner. I talk about, as you well know, running a business with pets. I talk about my own thoughts about what's going on in the industry, things like that. But getting in front of a camera and getting comfortable in front of a camera has really helped me better connect with my audience. And again, it's made content creation easier because I am getting into a rhythm. I will say my first couple of times getting on camera, it was scary. And it might be for you too, but don't give up. Keep showing up. It will get easier as you go. Number two is summits and workshops. Now, I don't think I would have been able to as confidently show up to these summits and workshops if I hadn't already started showing up consistently on video for my own content. And what these summits allowed me to do is connect with people live and in real time. I've taught branding, I've taught workshops on figuring out who your clients and customers are. I've taught all kinds of topics. I've been on panels, all of that. And this allows people to get to know me on a more personal level. They hear me speak. I get to engage with them sometimes in chats or sometimes in person, and build that connection with people, not just with my skill set, but also with my personality and the way that we conversate. Number three is podcasts. Now, clearly, if you're watching this video and you've seen my channel a bit, you know that I love to talk. And I also love having conversations with people. So on my podcasts, I bring guests on and we talk back and forth, and that banter allows the audience to see, again, not just who I am and what I do, but how I interact with people. And on the podcast, we laugh and we share our thoughts about things, sometimes controversial, sometimes not. And this allows people to get a closer glimpse at who I am and what it is like to work with me or talk with me. This has majorly helped my personal brand because people feel like they've gotten to know me beyond just my design work. They get to feel like they're in the room with me. They get to see what it's like to work with me. Even though we're not doing design work on the podcast, we're just having conversations. Now, here's what I want you to know. If you are not doing these things, please don't think you have to overhaul your marketing overnight. That is stressful. I do not want you guys to be stressing out here. Personal branding is just about starting small and being consistent. That's it. Pick one of these things that is easiest for you. I recommend starting by getting on camera more. And if you're not quite comfortable being on camera and having it posted long term, start on stories. Start practicing talking on stories, get comfortable in front of the camera, and eventually transition into something that is a little more permanent. You can start on Instagram. Those don't last very long. And then move over to a platform like YouTube, which is exactly what I did. The whole goal here is just for you to start showing up more as yourself, the unfiltered, the raw, the real you. If you can do that, you will be successful because that is what people want to connect with, you. And yes, I still do client work, okay? That is still the bread and butter of my business. But here's the thing. Layering in my personal branding has made all the difference in allowing me to connect with the right people who are a good fit for my design work. I am no longer competing with people on price or skills. I am just building connections, making friends, and growing my business along the way. And what's been really, really cool about this is as I've developed this personal brand, which by the way, folks, has taken time, it's gotten to a point where people can come to my website, they can come to my YouTube channel, they can watch a video and feel like they already know me before we ever hop on a call. And that is powerful. and is exactly how I want people to feel and how I want your audience to feel about you. Now, if you've been sitting here thinking, okay, yeah, like this is great, but where do I even start? I want to give you 3 tips as we end this. Number 1, I want you to pick 3 things that you genuinely care about and like outside of your work and business. So for me, that would be 90s rom-coms, my bearded dragon, and dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. And so it kind of blends some of those together. But pick 3 that you care about and can talk about and relate to people on that are not your business. Number 2, share a story. This doesn't have to be polished. In fact, it can just be a quick thing on your phone. I know for me, one day I shared this story about how I wanted to make cookies, but the eggs were so damn expensive that I was like, well, I'll just substitute this at home by myself. And the cookies were awful. Mind you, like I'm a pretty good baker. The cookies were trash, okay? And sharing that story had so much more engagement than a number of the other things that I had shared prior to that because people could connect on it. People were like, oh my gosh, been there, done that. People were sending me egg substitutes. People were sending me other recipes that they liked. We connected on something that had nothing to do with the business. And then eventually I was able to use that story and relate it back to what I do in the business, but it was far more memorable than me just saying, this is what you should do for your branding. This is why you should hire a professional. And number 3, take people along the little moments in your business. For me, that's sharing my pets as coworkers, or sometimes I'll share a book that I'm reading, which has led to a lot of really cool connections. For you, if you like coffee, maybe it's making your morning latte, or maybe you've got a shoe collection and you're showing off your shoes. These little slices of your life help your audience feel like they are along this journey with you and that they're getting to know you as more than just a service provider, but as a person. If you can start with these baby steps, it's going to help showing up in your brand feel less like a performance and more just like a natural part of your business. And I promise you, because I have been doing this myself, the more you do it, the more consistent you become, the more you show up, the easier this is going to get. So just get out there and try. So if you've been hiding behind your client work, I get it. I have been there too. But the sooner you start building that personal brand, the sooner you are going to stand out and the sooner you'll be making those real connections with your audience. Now, if this video gave you even the tiniest bit of clarity on personal branding and you feel like you're ready to post your first video or story, tag me. Okay, I will support you. I will cheer you on. I'd love to connect in this way. And I can't wait to see how you're showing up in your brand. Now, for more content like this, definitely hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, like, comment, whatever it feels best for you. And know that I drop new videos every week here on the channel to help teach you about branding, business, and having fun in it. Now, if you want deeper, more personalized work, I'd also love to hop on a one-on-one brand consultation with you. The links to all of that will be in the comments. Now get out there, start filming. I will see you again in the next one.